Welcome to Ask Jessi Nealand. The question I have today is from Madeline. She writes, you've spoken before about intentionally choosing to forego structured lifting programs sometimes and just wanting to kind of wing it as far as movement goes or to focus on intuitive movement as opposed to externally determined movement. I'm just coming off of 3 months of very structured, high volume hypertrophy program, and I'm feeling like it's doing more harm than good recently. I'm stressed out, depressed, and under recovered. I'm feeling a small whisper from my intuition to take a step back from lifting for a while to focus on slower, gentler movement like walking, yoga, playing, etc. Which is the first time I've ever allowed myself to consider that since I was 17 and started lifting. I think I know what to do, namely follow that whisper, but I'm afraid of the uncertainty. What's your experience with this and any words of wisdom? So, yes, follow that whisper. The reason I say that, and I feel very passionately about this, is that workout programs are awesome. Having a structured program that progresses you and you start seeing progress and you're like, getting stronger or you're changing your body comp or whatever you're trying to do, you're succeeding at, is an amazing feeling. However, they don't take into account personalized bodies, individual bodies, and they're not supposed to. That's your job. You're the only person who can actually listen to your individual body. So you have to tune in to those little whispers of intuition. And I wish that I had before I got injured because it was there. When I look back, right before getting injured, I kept being like, this doesn't feel great. There's all these like little weird things happening. It was all these like signs. Slow down. Don't go so hard. Don't push yourself so hard. But I wanted to get strong. I was so determined to get strong that I just ignored them. And I frankly, I believed that I could outsmart them. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? And now I have like lifelong herniated discs in my spine, and it's a real bummer. So I wish that I had listened to the whisper of intuition then. I highly recommend that anybody who feels that intuition whisper listens to it as well. But particularly because you're coming off of that 3 months of intensive work, I believe we're designed to go like this. I believe that we are designed to push hard for short bursts of time, and that nothing bad will usually happen when you do that, when you like really buckle down and commit to like a really strong program, for example. Our bodies are built to handle the pressures of that, but then I think we need to dial it back down. We need time away from it. It depends on how hard you went, but some of us are more durable than others, and they can just go for years at like maximum, pushing capacity. But most of us can't. And so I say, plan that shit in. Like, if you feel like a desire to dial it back down, now is the time. And yes, I think you should listen to your intuition on that one. That's all I have to say about that. But then in terms of the uncertainty and what scares you about it, and my words of advice there would be to really ask yourself, what about the idea of stepping back is so scary? And get really specific. What are you afraid of? And usually with clients who I've had go through these kind of periods of dialing it back down and being really soft and gentle and doing these movements that are nourishing, two things come up. One of two things. The first one is that they're afraid of losing an identity, some kind of identity that they've linked to being strong or being fit or being, fill in the blank, whatever it is. So if you're like an endurance runner and you decide that you don't want to go for 15-mile runs anymore, you're afraid of losing your identity as an endurance runner. And if you're a power lifter, you're afraid of losing your identity as somebody who's strong and powerful. So you're aware that you're getting yourself out of the training that it takes to be sort of top, if you will, of whatever it is that you're training for. And by that, I don't mean like relative to the entire spectrum of the sport or fitness even. Just the idea of being like at your top condition requires constant training. So to dial back down your training or to even take a few months off of training, you're giving up something. And often the thing that scares people and makes them really resistant to it, it isn't necessarily the thing itself, it's the identity with that thing. Like, who am I if I'm not a runner? Who am I if I'm not strong and a lifter? So that would be the first thing that tends to come up. The other thing is sneaky body image issues. Like a lot of times we get into fitness and we love it and we're all, oh my God, finally I'm doing this to feel good and not to look good. And then when you think about taking time off, you're like, well, I'm probably going to get fat and that sucks and I don't want to do that. But it's sneaky, it's like in the back of your mind, there's a message being like, ooh, don't do that though, because remember all those body image issues you had, like they're still kind of here, but they're parked way back in the back of your mind instead of being up front because you've been focusing on a type of training that you love. Yoga, running, whatever. So, Madeline, for you, I would say that the idea that taking some time off of lifting heavy, it is probably going to change your body, right? Let's say 3 months where you lift twice a week, you just do circuits to maintain, strength and health, and then you do 2 days a week of yoga, and then you do lots of long walking. Let's say that's the plan that feels really good to you and you try it. Some emotional stuff is going to come up, undoubtedly, and probably it will fit into one of these two categories. One, a loss of an identity that you are attached to. And if that happens, I encourage you to grieve it, to acknowledge it, to welcome the loss of it, like to really embrace the fact that you are giving something up that isn't who you are, but it is who you have needed to be up until this point. And then looking at what it means to you if you're not that person, if you're not superpower lifter girl. Like, what does that mean? Who are you if you're not that? So really give yourself compassion around that. And also, you can always be that girl again. I mean, if you decide that, like, you take a break just to, like, heal your body a little bit, and you're like, okay, well, great. That was literally all I needed. Now I'm going right back into it. Awesome. That's totally fine. This isn't about quitting, your type of training. It's about giving yourself permission and space to not be so attached to it that it actually becomes a burden on you and your body. And then the other one, of course, that might come up for you is dormant body image issues, where they go, well, if you're not strong, then you shouldn't be big. Like, the only reason it's okay for you to be big is if you're strong. So, like, whatever comes up, whatever starts processing its way through, I also encourage you to deal with that pretty directly and lean into the fear of it. Like, lean into the shitty feeling of, like, wait a second, I justified my positive body image through this one means, but it's still something there. Because that's another opportunity to strip another layer back. That's another opportunity to heal something that doesn't quite align with what you want. That's another opportunity to grow. So in a lot of ways, yes, I think it's safe for your body to dial it down, be softer, be gentler. We do have a tendency in our culture to go hard and to value going hard. Like Nike's like, just do it. But what if we didn't? We get less credit for being intuitive and wise and trusting our bodies than we do for, like, shoving all that aside and being stoic and just crushing it and going for it at any cost. People, if you say, like, oh, I blew out my knee because I was lifting so hard, they're like, oh yeah, I've been there. But if you're like, oh, I didn't blow out my knee because I, like, trusted my body and I rested for a few months after this hard program, they'll be like, huh, cool. Like, we don't know what to do with the yin, with the softness, with the self-care and the gentle side of you. So it gets a little less credit than it should. I think it's an incredibly valuable and incredibly beautiful growing and learning tool, as well as super healthy and good for your body. So that's my advice. I hope that this helps. If any of you guys out there are stuck in a feeling of, like, I gotta go hard, like I'm really trying to crush it, even though a part of me really just wants to, like, chill for a bit, I hope that this helps put it in perspective, but also please leave me comments. I love to hear from you, and I'm always happy to respond. And if you have questions for my Ask Jessi series, as always, please feel free to visit my website, jessinealon.com, and send me a contact form.